Do you ever notice that sometimes we carry some of the same beliefs with us from one day to the next without realizing it, even though they aren't helping us? I've had to unlearn a lot of things in order to heal from estrangement and trauma, and to embrace what God says to me about His love, grace, and forgiveness, and more. Changing my thinking and beliefs was definitely not easy. I had to dig deep and figure it out. So today, I'm going to help you recognize some limiting beliefs that might be holding you back from healing and moving forward. If you feel powerless and you're tired of wrestling with thoughts that aren't helping you, friend, you are not alone in this journey, and you are certainly not doomed to stay this way. So heat up your cinnamon latte, grab a notebook and pen, and listen in. Hi friends, welcome to The Awakened Christian Woman. Are you struggling with broken relationships and losses that have shaken your faith and left you wondering where God is? If you long for peace, a deeper prayer life, and faith that holds steady, you're in the right place. I'm Sarah, a wife, mom of adult kids, and your Jesus-loving friend. Here you'll find faith-filled encouragement and practical tools to help you trust God, pray with confidence, and walk closely with Him. So turn off your alarm clock, pour a strong latte, and let the sun shine in your life. Hi friends, become an Awakened Christian Woman Insider today. When you become an insider, you'll get weekly inspiration sent straight to your inbox. I promise I send no spam. You'll also get practical tips on how to trust God more, how to grow deeper in your prayer life, and how to be more in tune with Jesus. And you'll get early bird access to special offers from me. Sign up today at awakenedchristianwomaninsider.gr-site.com. I'll also put the sign up link in the episode notes, so you can just click to join. It is so easy. Also, if you're enjoying this podcast, click the follow button wherever you listen so that you don't miss a single episode. It's a wonderful day to be sitting in my office recording this podcast for you today because it is really cold outside. I have my nice warm winter sweater on and I'm sipping my cinnamon latte, which is so yummy. So today I want to walk you through 3 limiting beliefs that often keep estranged moms and Christian women in general stuck, replaying painful memories, believing nothing will change, and allowing discouragement to quietly take over. One of the first ways that God began helping me heal was by showing me how much power my thoughts actually had over me. There's a concept I learned a long time ago, and it's called metacognition. Metacognition means thinking about what you're thinking. It's giving thought to what's going on in your mind so that you can evaluate those thoughts. We always have control over what we think, but sometimes we forget that, and some thoughts seem automatic because when we think the same thought over and over, our minds get used to thinking that thing. We're almost so indoctrinated by our own thoughts that we don't even realize they're operating in our minds. When there are no barriers or obstacles to a thought that you've told yourself for so long that you've accepted it to be true, you have essentially created a superhighway in your brain. So when you engage in metacognition to identify and evaluate your limiting beliefs, you kind of erect a barrier on that superhighway of your brain that says, wait a minute, don't go down this road just yet. I'm changing how I think about this from now on. The Bible refers to this process as taking your thoughts captive. In order to take your thoughts captive, you first have to recognize what they're doing to you for good or bad. We want to have peace of mind that no matter what happens, it will be okay, but that's hard to do when limiting beliefs have hijacked your mind. And when those thoughts aren't helping you, you almost have to start questioning all of them and comparing them all to the truth of what God says. Taking our thoughts captive is part of that process of renewing our mind according to the Word of God. And when you do that, you mentally free up a lot of space and a lot of mental energy. Once you begin noticing your thoughts, you'll start to see patterns, beliefs that might feel true, but aren't actually helping you heal. So when we talk about limiting beliefs, or you could call them unhealthy mindsets, most Christians picture obvious examples. You've heard of these, right? They sound like, well, I can't change. This is just who I am now. Or, I'm too old, I'm too broken, I'm too undesirable, etc. Or people might think, that might have worked for so-and-so because they have a happy family, but it won't work for me. The most dangerous beliefs are often the quiet ones that we only speak to ourselves. They're the ones that drain your strength, the ones that sour your perspective without realizing it. And they show up as small thought choices, invisible thinking patterns, and subtle weights that we carry with us in our minds every single day. The Bible says in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, that we must throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. This is an important verse because it tells us that not everything that slows you down is sinful. Some things are simply weights that over time weaken your spiritual muscles. They won't send you to hell, but they do keep you from running freely. Instead of soaring, you end up kind of crawling. Instead of having peace, you're overrun by anxiety. Let me show you what this can look like in real life, especially if you're a mom who's walking through estrangement. One of the most common limiting beliefs I hear from estranged moms shows up in the form of replaying negative memories about their estranged child. Replaying negative memories is almost an autopilot thing because we tend to focus on problem solving, and negative memories give us problems that we want to solve, or they're things that are affecting us emotionally. But I have to be honest and tell you that replaying negative memories about your estranged child does not help you move forward. It does not help you find peace. It does not help you heal from the grief. And it does not help you in the event that you ever try to reconnect with your estranged adult child. Now, as I talk about this, it sounds really obvious and simple to just stop replaying the negative memories about your estranged child. But stopping that constant replay button isn't as easy as it sounds. The memories you have of your last interaction with your child might have scarred you deeply. There are things that he or she might have said that were really hurtful. Or you might be taking their abrupt and prolonged silence to heart as a personal injury. While these are all natural feelings, dwelling on the negative memories really does hold you back. The reality is, you also have positive memories about your child. There were good things that happened, probably many more than the negative things. So the key is to not get stuck in the negative memories. You can recognize that they're valid. You can identify that they had an impact and that they changed your relationship forever. And you can also recognize that you created positive memories with your child that are equally valid, that had a positive impact and that changed both of you forever. What I'm trying to help you see here is that the memories that have created your story are multifaceted. There have been some good ones and some bad, but when we only focus on the negative ones, or we think about the negative ones much more often, then it becomes really hard to remember the positive things. It's like they've evaporated into thin air, and then it becomes hard to view our child and our experiences with them in the fullest depth that is actually real. So when you catch yourself replaying negative memories about your estranged child, it's okay to acknowledge that thought, but don't stop there. Consciously remember a positive memory too, no matter how small it is. It could be a memory of taking them to the park when they were little and pushing them on a swing and seeing their huge smile. Or maybe it's the time that they brought breakfast in bed to you on Mother's Day when they were 10 years old. It doesn't matter what the memory is as long as it's positive. You spent time raising this child. You spent time loving this child, and you still love them. And they brought you love and joy too at one time. Just because they aren't right now doesn't negate that they did once, and perhaps they will again. But even if they don't discount the positive memories that you have of your child, those positive things that you did with them. Those things have added something meaningful to your life. Another belief that often settles in quietly, especially after a long season of pain, is this one: believing that nothing will ever change. It's probably one of the most pervasive limiting beliefs, especially when it comes to dealing with estrangement or having a prodigal child. It's easy to believe that we have no control over what's happening. And there is some truth in that. We have no control over our children. But the problem with this limiting belief is that it creates a feeling of helplessness and powerlessness that dooms us to sadness and inaction. The other thing that's wrong with thinking that nothing will change is that it probably isn't accurate. Things actually quite often change, Perhaps not in the way we want them to, but it's pretty rare that things stay exactly the same. When people use this phrase, what they really mean is that they don't believe anything will actually get better. Mark 9:23 tells us that all things are possible for those who believe. The Amplified Bible translates Jesus' statement as, "All things are possible for the one who believes and trusts in me." Faith is an important ingredient in that passage. When we don't believe that God can change anything, then we aren't really exercising faith. That's because faith is active, and as Christians, we need to use it in our lives. James chapter 1, verse 5 through 7 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord." You see, we have to fight back against doubt. God has given us the tools to be offensive. We are to ask for wisdom and to believe that He will answer our prayers. We aren't talking to the air. We're talking to the God of the universe who hears and answers us. Maybe not in the way we expect, and maybe not in our timing, but He does always answer in some way. James calls us out on our doubt. Being double-minded is a big deal. It causes instability in our thought life, instability in our emotions, and ultimately it causes a lot of instability in our lives. So go to war against your doubts. Question them, analyze them, and put them on trial. Don't let them consume your mind and take over your life. It's not wrong to have doubts or to struggle with them. And how we handle them and how we deal with them matters, because we do need to process them. At the end of the day, though, we have to land in that place where we can honestly tell the Lord, "Father, even when it doesn't look like things are changing, I believe that you can do anything." This is so important because unchecked doubt doesn't affect just what we believe, it affects how we feel. Now let's talk about a belief that many estranged moms live with every day, maybe without realizing it because it is so subtle. Discouragement becomes a limiting belief when it quietly rewrites what you believe is possible. It doesn't usually sound dramatic. It sounds practical, protective, even realistic. But underneath it, discouragement is making assumptions that are not rooted in truth. Discouragement often whispers things like, "I've prayed enough already. If God was going to move, He would have by now. I don't want to hope again just to be disappointed." Those thoughts feel understandable, but they are still beliefs. And beliefs shape your behavior. Here's the key truth. Discouragement limits your faith because it places a boundary around God's ability to work, not intentionally, but emotionally. A discouraged heart begins to believe God could restore, but He probably won't. Or God cares, but maybe not enough to intervene. God hears, but the answer must be no for me. And once that belief settles in, everything narrows from there. Prayer becomes shorter. Your expectations become lower. You guard your hope, and your faith becomes cautious. And none of that happens because God has changed. He hasn't changed at all. It only happens because the heart is trying to protect itself from more pain. Estrangement is different than other losses because there's no closure. There's no clear ending, no timeline, and no guarantee. So discouragement steps into the mind as a form of emotional protection or as a form of emotional survival. It says, if I stop expecting, it won't hurt as much. Or if I stop hoping, I won't be disappointed again. But that protection comes at a cost. Because discouragement doesn't just guard your heart, it also limits your hope and limits your vision. It convinces you that this season defines the future and this distance is permanent and this silence means God is absent. But none of those things are true. That's why discouragement is so dangerous. It quietly takes over, and although it doesn't deny God, it lowers Him in your mind to having a human standard of ability. Discouragement also is one of the enemy's most subtle strategies. Before he ever tries to defeat you, he works to wear you down. A discouraged believer doesn't fight with the same confidence. She hesitates, she doubts, and she grows weary. And when that discouragement lingers long enough, something shifts. You stop pressing in, you stop expecting God to move, and you stop believing that things can truly change. Scripture gives us such a clear picture of what discouragement can do, and Elijah's story shows us this beautifully. We see it so clearly in his life. One moment, he's standing boldly on Mount Carmel, calling fire down from heaven. The next, he's hiding in a cave, asking God to take his life. Elijah didn't lose his calling. He lost his strength. He lost his hope. And with it, his perspective. You can read about this in 1 Kings chapter 19. Discouragement does that. It clouds your vision, and it convinces you that what God did before, he won't do again. When it settles in, your spiritual posture changes. You once prayed with bold faith, but now you pray carefully. You once believed God for miracles, and now you're just hoping things don't fall apart. Discouragement doesn't usually make us walk away from God, though. It just makes us shrink back, and it turns us from warriors into worriers. God didn't scold Elijah for being discouraged. He spoke gently to him and reminded Elijah that his story wasn't over. And God restores discouraged mothers too. This is really important, and I don't want to forget to share it. Your discouragement is not a sign that you're failing. It is not a lack of faith. It's not sin or weakness. It's exhaustion. It's the weight of waiting for unanswered prayers to be answered. It's loving a child that you can't reach, and it's carrying your grief without resolution. Discouragement becomes a limiting belief when it convinces us that what we see right now is all that God can do. And for moms who are praying for their estranged or prodigal children, that belief is especially heavy. But the truth is, God is not limited by time, distance, or silence. He is still at work even when you feel stuck in your story. So here's the reframe that you can use that will bring you some freedom. When discouragement says, I don't see a way forward, faith says, God is working in ways I cannot see. So start saying that and believing it. Discouragement focuses on time that has passed, but faith trusts God's timing for the future. Discouragement looks at patterns, but faith looks at promises. And for those of us who are estranged moms, this matters because God is not limited by the distance, the silence, the years, or our adult child's choices. The Lord is still pursuing our hearts and theirs. He is still awakening prodigals to the truth. He's still writing your story, even though you can't see the ending yet. Your thoughts shape your life, and you are not powerless against them. Estrangement has a way of whispering lies that sound reasonable, but slowly steal our peace, our hope, and our confidence in God. But just because a thought feels true doesn't mean it is true. God is not finished with you. Before you go, I want to invite you to do one simple thing this week. At the top of a page in your notebook, write this down. What belief have I been carrying that doesn't align with what God says is possible or with what His Word says? Then ask the Lord to gently show you where discouragement or fear may have taken root and what truth He wants to replace that with. You don't have to force hope. You don't have to fake your faith. Just stay open to Jesus and stay willing to trust God and take Him at His word. The Lord does His best work in surrendered hearts, and He cares for you. Hey, I hope today's episode inspired you. If so, would you click the follow button for the show and share it with someone who wants to learn more about trusting God? Also, please take 30 seconds to leave me a quick review of the show on Apple Podcasts. It means so much to me to know this podcast is encouraging you. Set your alarm to wake up to Jesus in your mocha and meet me here every Tuesday for a new episode. See you soon.